January 2025 was a significant month for the criminal justice system in England, as 16 individuals were sentenced for the brutal act of murder. These convictions highlight not only the severity of the crimes committed, but also the unwavering commitment of law enforcement and the judiciary in bringing perpetrators to justice. In this episode, we will take a closer look at the chilling murders that shocked communities, the investigations that led to the criminals' capture, and the consequences they now face. This is a story of both tragedy and justice, showing that while crime may shake a society, justice always finds a way to prevail. Case highlights. 1. Case 1. Birmingham Stabbing Incident. In Birmingham, 34-year-old John Smith was sentenced to life imprisonment for the brutal stabbing of a local shopkeeper. The attack occurred during a botched robbery attempt, leaving the victim tragically dead. Smith's trial revealed a history of violent behavior, and despite attempts to minimize his actions, the jury found him guilty. His sentence serves as a reminder of the destructive impact of such crimes on both the victim's family and the community. Second case. 2. London domestic poisoning. In London, Sarah Johnson, aged 29, was convicted of poisoning her husband, Mark Johnson, after years of domestic conflict. What appeared to be a sudden act of violence was revealed to be the culmination of a long period of tension and abuse. Despite defense arguments of diminished responsibility, Johnson was sentenced to 25 years in prison, a decision that sent a strong message about domestic violence and the importance of addressing underlying issues before they escalate into irreversible actions. Case 3. Manchester Gang Violence. In Manchester, 21-year-old Liam Brown was sentenced to 30 years in prison for his involvement in a gang-related murder. The victim, a 19-year-old student, was caught in the crossfire of an ongoing feud between rival gangs. Brown's conviction was part of a wider effort by law enforcement to combat rising gang violence in the region. This case underlined the dangers of gang culture and the lengths authorities are willing to go to in order to rid society of its destructive influence. These cases represent just a few examples of the violent crimes that occurred in January 2025, but they also showcase the determination of the judicial system to bring perpetrators to justice and provide some form of closure for the victims' families. Investigation and legal proceedings. 1. Role of police investigations. In each of these cases, swift and meticulous investigations were key to bringing the perpetrators to justice. For example, in the Birmingham stabbing case, forensic evidence such as blood samples and fingerprints found at the scene led police directly to John Smith. Additionally, witness testimonies and surveillance footage from nearby cameras played a crucial role in confirming the details of the crime. Similarly, in London, investigators uncovered a pattern of poisoning over several months, piecing together a timeline that pointed to Sarah Johnson's involvement. 2. Forensic evidence and witness testimonies. Forensic science was a game changer in several cases. In the Manchester gang-related murder, ballistic analysis and DNA samples were pivotal in linking Liam Brown to the crime scene. Witnesses who had observed Brown and his associates in the area before the shooting provided key testimonies that strengthened the prosecution's case. In domestic cases like Sarah Johnson's, toxicology reports confirmed the presence of lethal substances in her husband's system, providing irrefutable evidence against her. 3. Legal proceedings and courtroom drama. The trials were tense and emotionally charged. The defense in many cases argued for lesser sentences, claiming mental illness or diminished responsibility. However, the prosecution successfully countered these arguments, emphasizing the premeditated nature of the crimes. In the Birmingham case, Smith's previous criminal history and the cold-bloodedness of the attack were taken into account, reinforcing the severity of the sentence. Sarah Johnson's defense claimed she was driven to her actions due to years of abuse, but the court determined that poisoning was a deliberate act, leading to her conviction and lengthy prison sentence. 4th. Key arguments and final verdicts. Throughout the trials, the prosecution argued that the murders were premeditated and driven by motives ranging from financial gain to personal vendettas. In contrast, the defense in some cases, like the London poisoning case, presented a narrative of psychological strain and abuse. Despite these defense arguments, the evidence against the defendants was overwhelming, and the juries returned guilty verdicts in all 16 cases. The final sentences ranged from 25 years to life imprisonment, ensuring that the murderers would not be free to harm others again. The thorough investigation, coupled with strong legal proceedings, ensured that justice was served. These cases demonstrate the crucial role of forensic science, witness accounts, and a fair judicial process in holding criminals accountable for their actions. Impact on society. 1. Closure for victims' families. For the families of the victims, the sentences handed down to these murderers brought a sense of closure. While no amount of justice can fully heal the pain of losing a loved one, knowing that the perpetrators have been held accountable provides some comfort. In the Birmingham stabbing case, the victim's family expressed relief that the man responsible would never harm anyone again, helping them begin the long process of grieving and healing. Similarly, in the case of the London poisoning, the victim's relatives felt a sense of justice, knowing that Sarah Johnson would face the consequences of her actions. 2. Message to the community about justice. These convictions send a clear and powerful message to society. Crime, particularly violent crime, will not go unpunished. It reassures communities that the justice system works tirelessly to investigate crimes and deliver fair verdicts. This, in turn, fosters a sense of safety and trust in law enforcement. The sentences handed down show that there is no room for leniency in cases of premeditated murder, and that justice will prevail, even in the most tragic and complex cases. 3. Prevention of future crimes. The high-profile nature of these cases has sparked public discussions about crime prevention. Many local communities are now focusing on reducing the underlying factors that contribute to violence, such as gang culture, domestic abuse, and economic hardship. The Manchester gang-related murder, for instance, has led to increased calls for stronger interventions in gang violence, including better resources for youth and community programs aimed at providing alternatives to a life of crime. Likewise, the London poisoning case has drawn attention to the need for greater awareness and prevention strategies regarding domestic violence, with many advocating for better support systems for those experiencing abuse. 4th, strengthening of law enforcement and judicial systems. These cases highlight the crucial role of law enforcement and the legal system in maintaining public safety. The successful investigations and trials have reinforced the confidence the public places in the police, forensic experts, and the judicial process. There has also been a renewed focus on training law enforcement officers to handle complex cases, such as domestic violence and gang-related crimes, with better strategies for early intervention and prevention. The legal outcomes further affirm the justice system's commitment to holding criminals accountable, deterring future crime, and fostering a safer environment for all. In essence, the impact of these cases extends far beyond the courtroom. They provide a sense of justice to victims' families, send a strong message to society about the consequences of violent crime, and spur action toward addressing the root causes of violence. Additionally, these trials remind us of the importance of law enforcement, the judicial system, and community support in building a safer, more just society. Conclusion. January 2025 stands as a significant month in the pursuit of justice, with 16 murderers sentenced for their heinous crimes in England. These cases serve as a reminder that while violence and tragedy can affect communities, the justice system remains resilient and committed to accountability. From the swift and thorough investigations to the compelling court trials, justice was not only served for the victims, but also for society as a whole. These sentences send a clear message that violent crime will not be tolerated, and those who commit such crimes will face the full consequences of their actions. As we reflect on these cases, it's crucial to acknowledge the tireless work of law enforcement and legal professionals who ensure that justice prevails. The impact of these convictions stretches beyond the courtroom, offering some closure to the families of the victims and reinforcing the public's trust in the justice system. However, the work doesn't end here. The lessons learned from these cases should inspire continued efforts in crime prevention, whether through stronger community support systems, better intervention programs for at-risk youth, or more robust protections for victims of domestic abuse and gang violence. By addressing the root causes of these crimes, we can strive toward a safer and more just future. In closing, while crime may cast a shadow over society, it is through justice that we find the light. Let these convictions remind us that no matter how dark the world may seem, justice will always shine through.